So yeah, I think this is a huge win. I'm shocked at how powerful it is and how accessible it is early game. It's pretty cool. Welcome to episode 2 of Project Ozone 2. The goal today, I think, is going to be logistics pipes. You can see I have a bit of a kit made up here, basic logistics pipes. Taking a quick look at the recipe, it's all fairly cheap. These BC transport pipes are quite cheap. And of course, the gold gear for me right now, early game, is cheaper than the assembly table because I do not have that. And I definitely don't have the RF to power that. The primary focus will be taking this sieving setup here. As you can see, it's a mess, and I want to automate it. I also want to say one of the best things about this base so far is I've pushed the mob spawning far out there. So now I can actually do work at nighttime. I've always liked making tinker smelteries that make seared stone. This smeltery is kind of a catch-all. This smeltery is for my more recent projects because I didn't want conflicts between the fluids. Alloys being made, I suppose. Bit of a tree farm here, nothing special. This will be a mob farm. Now for a short montage. Day 97. I believe I have the makings of a plan. This is my test setup here. I'll try to break down. We got the logistics power junction, which kind of supplies power to the network based off the immersive thermoelectric generator. There's two types of basic cables. There's the basic cable, but then there's the unrouted. And basically the unrouted can't handle junctions. It'll error out. I believe that red is an error. You get rid of it, and you put the basic in. Oh, scratch that. Let's go over here. The basic logistics pipe can interact with stuff, but if you were to try to use the unrouted, it doesn't. And then it also errors there. Oh, maybe it was erroring before because I had no power. So all the red goes away. Yes, since this is unrouted, You can't tap off like that. But if I was to get rid of that, put that there, it's happy. Looking at the cost, the basic, a little pricey, not bad. But the unrouted, very cheap. So obviously long lines, you would use unrouted. And then once you have to do something, or take corners, you upgrade to the basics. For my own curiosity, interesting, the unrouted can take the corner. I had thought my research had shown otherwise, but I guess not. Logistics, chassis. If you click on these, you get these 2 inputs. And just to confirm, you do need a tool of some sort, because there we go. But the Mark II gives you 2 input slots. If you look at the cost of a Mark II, it's very cheap. It's just a basic with a couple iron. And you can make up to like Mark IV, 5, I think. Even the Mark IV. He threw that over the wall? I think I was saying the Mark IV is not that expensive. But for me right now, I'll stick with the Mark II. And then you have this requesting pipe, which you can right click on and request stuff. But notice, nothing's here. And you might be thinking, that's because the chests are empty. But if we put in crafting benches, and cobblestone and wood, you'll see it's still empty. And that is because we haven't told this chassis what it's going to do. So all these little cards can do different things: extracting, quicksort, suppliers, providers, all kinds of crazy stuff. Throw that guy in. I'm not going to configure this right now. I'll leave it default, but you can tell it to provide certain things, which I'll be doing later with my sieving setup. So now that those have provider cards in there, we can actually request stuff. So I could say, hey, you know what, give me 2 oak. And there it is. Now you can get quite complicated with this. This is just basic for now. For instance, the crafting card. And I think there's several tiers, and I don't know if it's a speed thing or if it's a quantity thing. But notice how I have a chassis 2 here. So I only have 2 slots. So it's only 2 recipes. So I can say, hey, you know what you're going to do? You're going to input cobble in, and you're going to get stone back. And there's more complicated things you can do later, especially with satellites. I'll be using those with my Tinker's smeltery setup at some point. But now, I should be able to request stone. I'm going to request 10. So it sends it to the furnace. And I have to make a sided upgrade for the furnace. So fuel input from the top, output out the back, and input in the back. Now, I don't know if there's a way I have to cancel. I think there's a way you have to cancel. I'm just not sure I remember. Let's try ordering again. Okay, so it outputs out the back stone, and so it's smart. Now what you could do is you could have another pipe on here that actually has something called polymorphic item sync. And these things are really cool. They will look at a network, and if it sees a matching ingredient, like if there was a couple pieces of stone in here, it would output and it would pick this. And where that becomes really powerful is if you have a drawer controller, storage drawer set up with a drawer controller, and you put a what's it called? A polymorphic item sync on a storage drawer controller, it will automatically put stuff into the proper slots, which is very powerful later on. And looking at some of these really handy cards, the passive supplier I think is one of them. Plus this poly one, it required orange dye, red dye. I'm looking at the ingredients here. I think I have to get into agricraft. And if you notice the quest book, really I'm not that far. I haven't even got the drawer upgrade yet. But for right now, I'm probably going to rush into getting poppy seeds. This guy right here. I just need red dye. And lots of it. That's annoying. Next video will probably be doing a sieving setup, but for right now I just have the hammering, which is still pretty cool because I can take all these and just throw them in that temporary sieve setup back there. I think I'll move the sieving setup in here, and then of course add more power banks. But this is a good start. So this little drawer controller network has a provider on the back. If you click on it with a wrench, there's configurations, but everything's default. I haven't played with it. So basically what that provider does is anything that's requesting items, it can pull from the drawer network and supply them. So at this hammerer here, going from compressed cobblestone to compressed gravel, you see we have an active supplier. And there's a whole bunch of configurations here. I need to look into them, but for right now I have it set on partial. I have a stack. So it's always going to be requesting cobblestone from that network, if the network can supply it. And this extractor is just a basic configuration, nothing fancy to it, but what it's going to do is it'll extract, as long as there's somewhere for these items to go. And right now, I think the only place for them to go is this polymorphic sink. And I say that because this pipe goes through the wall, and I was doing some testing over there, so I don't think anything's flying over that way. But yeah, you can see how it works together, right? Extracts resources, puts them back, and as long as they match this filter, they'll get stuck in because of this guy. And so it's the exact same configuration. You know, gravel to sand, sand to dust, and then maybe in the future I'll do netherrack and endstone, but looking at JEI, I'm pretty far from automating those or even being able to make those resources. So in here, I was going to make a giant drawer network, kind of like that's over there, but much bigger. Same idea with that chassis and that polymorphic sink. This will be my main crafting room, so I'll have access to all these items. And yeah, this is what I wasn't sure about. Provider. Okay, I see. Because there's no item sync module, nothing's getting put over. I need to be careful about that actually, but I don't accidentally fill those chests with junk. So this is the main power junction, of course, which is power and way over there. This is what's really cool. There's actually a block here called logistics requesting table, which is kind of like an interface, but I don't have access to these chipsets yet. I need to get into the assembly table. But for right now, this request logistics pipe, I can actually come here and all of these items, even the ones that are in that drawer controller next door, are accessible from this spot. Because you know that one chest that's next to me only has the 11 stone in it. And all you have to do is say, hey, you know what? I would like a stack of compressed cobblestone. And it's going to pull it. And it's going to send it through the wall. And because I have low tier pipes right now, I'd like to upgrade them all to, Mark III, I think, is the highest for like the request pipes. It will speed things up. But for right now, that's pretty cool. Saves me running around. And then once I make this table, hopefully next episode, it'll be really cool.